Deep inside the forgotten halls of the palace, Cinderella discovered a portrait unlike any other. The woman in the painting looked strangely familiar, but there was something impossible about it. The portrait seemed to have been painted long before Cinderella was even born. Then Cinderella noticed something impossible. The woman inside the portrait had moved. Behind her, a golden doorway had appeared where there had been nothing before. Cinderella stepped closer. Whatever this picture was, it wasn't simply a painting. It was trying to show her something. The doorway vanished, but something else appeared. A silver crescent surrounded by 3 tiny stars now glowed on the woman's necklace. Cinderella found the same symbol carved into the frame. It wasn't decoration. It was the first clue, and somehow the picture had chosen her. The symbol opened a hidden compartment inside the frame. Cinderella found an old parchment tied with silver ribbon. But before she could unfold it, the woman in the portrait changed again. For the first time, she looked directly at Cinderella, as if she had been waiting for her. Cinderella finally unfolded the parchment. It showed an ancient stone fountain hidden among tall trees, marked with the same crescent and 3 stars. Then she noticed something even stranger. The woman in the portrait was looking toward the very same place. Then the painting came alive. The woman pointed toward the fountain, and even the trees began to move. A tiny golden butterfly flew from the picture and became a trail of light toward the exit. Cinderella understood. The portrait wasn't showing her the past. It was guiding her. Cinderella followed the golden trail through the forgotten corridors of the palace. It led her farther from the familiar rooms and toward an old doorway she had never noticed before. Whatever waited beyond it, she knew the mysterious picture had sent her there for a reason. Beyond the doorway, Cinderella discovered a forgotten royal garden. And there, exactly as the parchment had shown, stood the ancient stone fountain. She stepped closer, realizing the picture had led her here. But the fountain seemed to be hiding something beneath its silent, weathered surface. At the center of the fountain, Cinderella found the same mysterious symbol. When she touched it, the water rose into the air and formed another moving image. The woman from the portrait now stood beside an ancient forest path. Cinderella knew the picture had given her another destination. When the water disappeared, a hidden compartment opened beneath the fountain. Inside was another picture. It showed the mysterious woman beside a strange silver-gray tree deep in a forest. Cinderella held it tightly. The search had just become much bigger than she had imagined. Cinderella left the hidden garden and followed the second picture into an ancient forest. The deeper she walked, the more silver-gray trees appeared around her. Then a faint trail of golden light appeared between the branches. The picture was leading her somewhere specific. Deep within the forest, Cinderella found it, the enormous silver-gray tree from the picture. The same crescent symbol was carved into the stone beneath it, but something beneath the roots was glowing. Whatever the picture had hidden here, Cinderella was finally standing directly above it. Beneath the silver tree, Cinderella discovered a hidden compartment. Inside lay a small silver locket with a blue gemstone. She felt an unexpected warmth when she touched it. Somehow, she knew this tiny object wasn't simply another clue. It felt strangely connected to her. On the back of the locket was the same crescent and 3 stars, but around it was a familiar floral pattern, one Cinderella had seen before. Her heart began to race. The clues weren't leading her to a stranger's story. They were leading her toward her own. With trembling hands, Cinderella opened the locket. Inside was a tiny portrait of the mysterious woman. She had seen that face before in the ancient painting. Cinderella stared at it, feeling a strange connection she couldn't explain. Somehow, this woman was much closer to her story than she had imagined. Behind the portrait was another secret, a tiny piece of blue embroidered fabric. Cinderella recognized the pattern instantly. It belonged to something her mother had treasured. Then the picture changed, showing the mysterious woman holding the same fabric. Cinderella finally understood. Her mother's past was hidden inside this mystery. The picture suddenly revealed a hidden memory. The mysterious woman stood inside an old royal nursery, holding the same blue fabric Cinderella now held. Beside her was a tiny cradle. Cinderella's heart tightened. Whoever this woman was, she had once protected someone whose story was deeply connected to Cinderella. Then Cinderella noticed the emblem carved into the cradle, the same crescent and 3 stars. Even the parchment had changed, now showing that forgotten nursery. She placed the blue fabric inside the locket and stood. The mystery was no longer simply about a picture. It was revealing a hidden chapter of her family's past. The new clue led Cinderella back into the oldest wing of the palace. At the end of a forgotten corridor, she found a faded blue door marked with the same 3-star symbol. The parchment glowed in her hand. She had finally found the nursery from the mysterious memory. But the nursery door had no keyhole. Instead, it held a strange circular shape that perfectly matched Cinderella's locket. As she brought it closer, the symbol began to glow. The forgotten door was recognizing her. Whatever waited behind it had been locked away for a very long time. The moment the locket touched the door, golden light raced across the wood. The ancient lock released, and the forgotten nursery slowly opened before Cinderella. She stood at the threshold, staring into the darkness. Whatever had been hidden here was finally waiting to be discovered. Inside, Cinderella found the cradle from the magical memory. A faded blue cloth rested across it, the same fabric hidden inside her locket. Her heart ached as she touched it. Then she noticed an old royal painting behind the cradle, with one part deliberately covered. Someone had wanted this room, and its memories forbidden. Cinderella pulled the curtain aside and froze. Hidden beneath it was the mysterious woman from the ancient portrait, standing beside this very cradle. In her arms was a newborn wrapped in blue embroidered cloth. Cinderella stared at the painting, wondering why this forgotten child felt so strangely familiar. Beneath the painting, Cinderella discovered another hidden compartment. Inside was a tiny rolled parchment. The same 3-star symbol was engraved beside it. She carefully pulled it free, realizing that every clue from the portrait to the locket had been leading her toward one carefully hidden truth. Cinderella unfolded the tiny parchment and discovered another clue: an ancient stone bridge crossing a narrow river. The same 3-star symbol marked its path. There were no words, only a picture. Yet somehow, Cinderella knew exactly what it meant. The search had to continue. Before Cinderella could leave, the portrait changed again. The mysterious woman now stood beside the very bridge shown on the parchment. Dark clouds gathered behind her, and her expression looked almost like a warning. Cinderella understood one thing clearly. The next clue would not be as safe as the ones before it. By evening, Cinderella reached the ancient stone bridge from the mysterious clue. The river beneath it was silent, covered in silver moonlight. At the center stood another three-star symbol. She had followed the picture this far. Now she wondered what the bridge was hiding. At the bridge's center, Cinderella discovered another hidden mechanism. Her locket fit perfectly into the stone. The moment she placed it there, the bridge came alive with golden light, revealing a staircase beneath it. Cinderella looked into the darkness below. The next clue was waiting underground. Cinderella descended beneath the bridge into a forgotten chamber, hidden beneath the river. Ancient symbols covered the walls, and at the end stood a massive circular stone door. The same three-star emblem marked its center. Whatever waited beyond it had been hidden for generations. Beside the stone door, Cinderella found an old keepsake box. Inside was another blue ribbon with the same embroidery and a tiny silver key. She lifted it carefully. The moment she touched it, her locket began to glow brighter. Whatever this key opened, it was clearly the next piece of the mystery. Cinderella found a tiny keyhole hidden beneath the three-star symbol. The silver key fit perfectly. As she turned it, golden lines spread across the ancient door, and the massive stone began to move. A hidden passage appeared beyond it. Cinderella took a breath and stepped toward the unknown. Beyond the passage, Cinderella discovered something impossible: a secret gallery beneath the river. Dozens of ancient pictures covered the walls, all showing the mysterious woman. Then Cinderella noticed an empty pedestal at the center. It looked as though one very important picture had been removed long ago. Cinderella examined the empty pedestal and noticed something strange. The dust had been disturbed. The picture hadn't been lost. It had been taken. Then a golden image briefly appeared in its place, showing the mysterious woman beside an unknown royal man. Someone had deliberately erased this part of the story. Beneath the empty frame, Cinderella found a hidden metal plaque. The moment she touched it, a golden line appeared across the floor, leading to one particular painting: the silver tree. Behind its frame, something was hidden. Cinderella tightened her grip on the silver key and moved closer. Behind the silver tree painting, Cinderella discovered a hidden photograph. It showed the mysterious woman beside the unknown royal man, and between them, a child wrapped in the same blue embroidery she had found before. Cinderella stared at the image, suddenly feeling that she was looking at a forgotten moment from her own past. Cinderella noticed an ancient royal crest hidden in the photograph. Its symbol matched her locket exactly. Then she turned the picture over and found something even stranger: a tiny keyhole shaped like the silver key. The photograph itself was locked, and Cinderella was holding the only key. Cinderella inserted the tiny silver key into the photograph. With a soft click, the frame opened. Hidden inside was a thin blue sheet marked with the same 3 stars. She carefully pulled it free, realizing that someone had hidden an entire second message inside the picture. The hidden sheet revealed an old map of the palace. One place was marked with the 3-star symbol: the abandoned West Tower. Cinderella recognized the location immediately. It belonged to the same forgotten wing as the nursery. Whatever happened there might finally explain why these pictures were hidden. The map led Cinderella to the abandoned West Tower. Ivy covered its ancient walls, and mist surrounded its broken windows. Above the entrance was the same 3-star royal seal. Cinderella tightened her grip on the silver key. Whatever had been hidden here was waiting behind that door. Inside the tower, Cinderella found the same royal seal carved into the stone wall. Her locket fit perfectly beneath it. Golden light spread across the ancient stones, revealing a hidden doorway. She stood before it with the silver key in her hand. Whatever truth waited inside, there was no turning back now. The silver key finally opened the hidden door. Beyond it was a secret royal archive, untouched for generations. Ancient photographs, scrolls, and forgotten records filled the room. But one object immediately caught Cinderella's attention, a blue-bound book marked with the same 3 stars. The book contained every picture Cinderella had followed: the portrait, fountain, silver tree, nursery, and bridge. They weren't separate clues. They were chapters of one hidden story. Then Cinderella turned the page and froze. A young girl stood beside the mysterious woman. Somehow, that final image felt painfully familiar. Cinderella looked closer at the final picture. The girl wore a blue ribbon and a tiny crescent pendant. Cinderella touched her own locket. The resemblance was impossible to ignore. She still couldn't see the girl's face clearly, but something inside her whispered that she already knew who it was. Then a forgotten childhood memory returned. Cinderella remembered being held by her mother, wearing a blue embroidered ribbon. In her tiny hand was a silver crescent pendant, the same one shown in the mysterious picture. Cinderella's eyes filled with tears. The past was finally beginning to remember her. Another memory surfaced. Cinderella remembered her mother showing her the little crescent pendant beside an old picture of the silver tree. She couldn't remember what her mother had said, but she remembered one thing clearly. She had been told never to forget that picture. Beneath the page, Cinderella found another photograph. This time, there was no doubt the young girl was her. She stood beside the mysterious woman beneath the silver tree, holding the same crescent pendant. Cinderella stared at the image, finally realizing that her own childhood was part of the secret. Cinderella noticed something strange on the photograph: a royal date seal. The image had been taken years after the history she remembered. Her memories suddenly felt incomplete. Someone had changed the story of her childhood, and this photograph was proof that the truth had been hidden from her. Then Cinderella found the next secret. Several pages had been deliberately torn from a book. The missing section came directly after the photograph of her childhood. But one magical imprint remained: a royal carriage leaving the palace toward the forest. Whatever happened next had been erased from history. The glowing route continued beyond the kingdom, deep into the forest. Cinderella compared it with the photograph and realized they matched perfectly. The missing chapter had not ended at the palace. Whatever happened to her as a child had continued somewhere beyond these ancient walls. The trail led Cinderella to a forgotten clearing deep in the forest. Beneath an ancient oak, she found a hidden silver box. Inside was a child's blue ribbon and a tiny wooden horse. The moment she touched it, a faint childhood memory returned. She had seen that little horse before. The little wooden horse unlocked another memory. Cinderella saw herself as a child beneath this very tree, receiving the toy from the mysterious woman. Then she noticed something beyond the trees, a small stone cottage. The memory faded, but its direction was clear. Cinderella knew where she had to go. Following the memory, Cinderella found the hidden cottage. It looked abandoned, yet a warm light glowed behind one window. Above the door was the familiar three-star symbol. A blue ribbon hung from a nearby branch. Cinderella knew she had reached another place connected to her forgotten past. The locket fit perfectly into the symbol above the cottage door. With a soft glow, the lock released. Warm light spilled into the forest. Cinderella stood at the threshold, holding the little wooden horse. Something inside this forgotten cottage had been waiting for her. Inside, Cinderella found a room that seemed frozen in time. A child's bed, a blue embroidered blanket, and an old rocking chair remained untouched. Then the mirror suddenly came alive. It showed the mysterious woman sitting in that chair, holding a baby. Cinderella turned around, but the chair was empty. One photograph on the wall was hiding something. Behind it, Cinderella found another image of the mysterious woman, the royal man, and herself as a child. But this time, the background revealed the cottage. It had once been a secret refuge, and Cinderella had been here before. Beneath the photograph, Cinderella discovered a tiny recording box. Inside was a dark crystal disc. The moment she touched it, the mysterious woman appeared as a glowing projection. She looked frightened, as if she had recorded the message knowing she might never return. Cinderella leaned closer, waiting to hear the truth. The recording became clearer. The woman looked toward the camera and then toward the sleeping child. Cinderella felt her heart stop. She couldn't hear every word, but one thing was certain. The message had been made for the little girl, and whoever recorded it had known that one day Cinderella would find it. Then the recording revealed the night everything changed. Rain battered the cottage as the woman wrapped young Cinderella in the blue blanket. A royal carriage waited outside. The crescent pendant was placed around the child's neck. Then the woman heard something outside, and suddenly everything stopped. The memory continued. In the middle of the storm, the woman placed young Cinderella inside the royal carriage. She gave her the little wooden horse and tied a silver ribbon around her hand. Then the carriage disappeared into the forest. The woman stayed behind, watching her child leave. The recording finally made one thing clear. Cinderella had not simply been separated from her past. She had been deliberately sent away. The carriage carried her toward the palace, while the woman remained behind. Cinderella picked up the silver key. Now she needed to discover who had ordered that journey, and why. The recording had left one final photograph behind. It showed the palace on the night Cinderella disappeared. But someone else was there, a shadow standing behind the columns. Cinderella couldn't see the person's face, yet she suddenly understood. Someone at the palace had known exactly what was happening. Studio microphone voiceover, 15 SEC. Cinderella left the cottage and followed the old forest road back toward the palace. From a distant hill, she compared the photograph with the real building. The balcony was still there, so was the ancient royal seal. Cinderella knew the mystery had finally brought her back to where it all began. Cinderella reached the forgotten balcony from the photograph. Every detail matched. Then she found the three-star symbol carved beneath the railing. When she touched it, a golden line appeared across the floor. There was something hidden beneath the balcony, something the palace had kept secret for years. Beneath the balcony, Cinderella discovered a hidden royal chamber. Old photographs filled the walls, but one sealed envelope caught her attention. It carried the same 3-star seal, and beside it lay the blue ribbon from her childhood. Cinderella reached for the envelope. The truth was finally within her hands. Cinderella broke the ancient seal and opened the letter. Inside was a photograph of herself as a child beside the mysterious woman. Her locket began to glow. Whatever had been written in that letter was meant for her, and after everything she had discovered, Cinderella was finally ready to hear it. The letter revealed the truth behind the pictures. They had never been random clues. Each one was a memory, a path deliberately created to lead Cinderella back to the places connected to her childhood. The final image showed the woman placing the crescent pendant around the little girl's neck. Cinderella finally understood. The entire picture trail had been made for her. At the bottom of the letter, Cinderella found a tiny portrait. Then she noticed the ring on the woman's hand, a ring she had seen before in the royal family portraits. Suddenly, a forgotten name returned to her memory. Cinderella whispered it softly, finally realizing who the mysterious woman had been. The portrait finally gave Cinderella the answer. The mysterious woman was her mother, the former queen. The same pendant, the same ring, the same memories, everything connected. Cinderella realized her mother had created the picture trail to guide her home. But one question remained. Why had she disappeared? The final photograph changed everything. Cinderella's mother hadn't abandoned her. She had stayed behind while sending her daughter away to safety. The picture trail was her promise that one day Cinderella would know the truth. But the letter still held one final warning. The final warning was simple. The pictures had been created to guide Cinderella home when she was finally ready. Now she held the last key her mother had left behind. Cinderella looked at the palace above her and knew exactly where the final answer was waiting. The golden key led Cinderella to another forgotten door inside the palace. Behind an ancient tapestry, she found its lock. When the door opened, warm light spilled into the dark corridor. Beyond it was a private royal room, untouched since the night her childhood disappeared. The hidden room was her mother's private chamber. Everything was still there. The pictures, the blue ribbon, even the little book that had started Cinderella's journey. Then she found one final photograph. Her mother holding her as a baby. For the first time, Cinderella felt that she wasn't searching for her mother anymore. She was finally coming home. Inside the final box were all the pictures Cinderella had followed. Every place had been carefully recorded. But the last photograph stopped her heart. It showed Cinderella standing in this very room, years before she had ever returned. Her mother had planned the entire journey for her. Cinderella finally saw the purpose behind the pictures. Her mother had placed each one carefully, creating a path that would lead her daughter home when she was ready. It wasn't a warning, it was a promise that no matter how far Cinderella wandered, her mother's love would always leave a way back. One final family record confirmed what Cinderella had always wished to know. Before everything changed, she had been surrounded by love. Her mother had never forgotten her. The years of silence hadn't erased their bond. They had only hidden it beneath the story Cinderella was finally old enough to understand. Cinderella gathered every piece of the journey onto her mother's desk. The horse, the ribbon, the pictures, the key, and the book. All the clues finally made sense. She closed the book, but she didn't hide the memories away. This time, she chose to keep them. Cinderella returned to the fountain where the first picture had begun. In the morning light, everything looked different. She placed the little wooden horse beside the water and held her family photograph close. For a moment, the sunlight reflected her mother's silhouette, and Cinderella smiled. She finally understood where the pictures had been leading her. Cinderella placed the final picture beside the fountain. It no longer felt like a clue. It was simply a memory, a precious piece of the life she had once known. She touched her mother's locket and looked toward the palace. For the first time, Cinderella wasn't chasing the past. She was ready to live with it. As the morning light touched the photograph, Cinderella saw her mother one final time, not as a ghost, but as a memory preserved in the picture. There were no more secrets, only love. Cinderella smiled through her tears, finally understanding the message her mother had been trying to leave behind. Cinderella picked up the little horse and her mother's photograph, carrying them with her into the future. She no longer needed to chase another picture. The path had brought her home. With her mother's memory close to her heart, Cinderella walked toward the palace and toward a life that finally belonged to her. Cinderella returned to the royal portrait gallery and noticed one empty frame beside her family's portraits. She placed her childhood picture inside it. For years, that space had represented everything that had been lost. Now it held a memory of love, and Cinderella finally felt that she belonged there. Cinderella returned to the room one final time. She looked through the pictures that had carried her across the kingdom, then gently closed the book. She left the silver key on top of it. The mystery was over. The memories would remain, but they no longer controlled her. The next morning, Cinderella returned to the balcony where her story had once been hidden. But this time, she wasn't looking for the past. She looked across the kingdom with a peaceful heart. The pictures had brought her home, and now, for the first time, she could decide where her story would go next. Beneath the silver gray tree, Cinderella left the little wooden horse that had followed her through every memory. It belonged to the child she had once been. She would carry the love, but not the fear. Then she turned toward the palace, ready to begin a new chapter of her life. In the palace courtyard, Cinderella found her mother's monument. The woman she had spent so long searching for had never truly disappeared from the kingdom. Her memory was everywhere. Cinderella touched the stone and smiled. She wasn't returning to a forgotten past anymore. She was becoming part of it. Before leaving her mother's room, Cinderella placed one final picture on the desk. It showed herself beneath the silver gray tree. She placed it beside the photograph of her younger self and her mother. The past and present finally stood together. Cinderella closed the drawer and left the door open. Cinderella finally passed through the palace gates with no unanswered questions behind her. She carried only the memories worth keeping. The kingdom stretched before her, bright and open. Her journey through the pictures was over, but the life waiting beyond the gates was only beginning. From the hill, Cinderella looked back one final time. She could see the balcony, the garden, and the tree where so many memories had begun. She touched her mother's locket and smiled. Some journeys end by finding a place. Hers ended by finally finding herself. At the bridge, where another picture had once led her, Cinderella finally stopped following someone else's path. She placed her mother's photograph safely away and looked toward the sunset. The pictures had shown her where she came from. Now she was free to decide where she would go. And so, the picture pursuit finally came to an end. Cinderella had found more than hidden photographs. She had found the truth about her mother, her childhood, and herself. She carried her mother's love into the future and left the mystery behind. Sometimes, the greatest journey isn't finding where you belong. It's discovering who you are.